Good morning, I'm Maiki Oreta, and you're watching Business 360, where we break down the numbers, connect the dots, and give you the developments and the insights you need to navigate, adapt, and lead. Let's dive right in. Rice tariffs will start rising gradually next year as the government moves to balance farmers' income with consumer prices. A new study finds Philippine companies lost an estimated 4 trillion pesos to fraud over the past year, a wake-up call for corporate governance and internal controls. And ultrabilyonaryo Manny Pangilinan is speaking out, saying the government's anti-corruption drive must start at the very top if it's to restore public trust. First, let's take a look at how global financial markets performed overnight. U.S. stocks closed sharply lower after big banks warned that equity markets may be heading for a downfall, rather, a drawdown. The sell-off comes amid growing concerns over stretched valuations. All three major U.S. indexes finished deep in the red after the CEOs of Morgan Stanley and Goldman Sachs warned that parts of the market may be forming a bubble.
We're seeing a bit of a risk-off move. We're waiting on election results to tell us something, I think, about the election environment and maybe the government shutdown. But really, I think what investors are concerned about is, are we reaching peak AI? And is the Fed maybe not going to cut in December? And that's causing a little angst in the market and a little bit of a sell-off, particularly in the highly valued names in the NASDAQ.
The Dow Jones Industrial Average lower by 0.5%, the S&P 500 down by 1.2%, and the NASDAQ sharply lower by 2%. Over in Europe, markets ended mixed. The UK's FTSE 100 higher by 0.1%, Germany's DAX down by 0.8%, and France's CAC 40 down by 0.5%. Here at home, rice prices remain one of the biggest drivers of inflation. And starting January 1st, the government is introducing a more flexible tariff system to keep import costs in check. The National Economic and Development Authority Board, chaired by President Ferdinand Marcos Jr., approved the proposal of the Tariff and Related Matters Committee. Under the plan, the tariff rate on rice imports will stay at 15% until December 31 for both in-quota and out-of-quota shipments. Starting next year, tariffs will be adjusted in 5% increments for every 5% change in international prices, but subject to a floor of 15% and a ceiling of 35%. Fraud is quietly bleeding the Philippine economy, with companies losing an estimated 4 trillion pesos in revenue over the past year. It's a threat that cuts across sectors, from banking and retail to e-commerce, and it's eroding consumer trust and business confidence. That's according to a new study by insights firm TransUnion, which surveyed 200 Philippine business leaders. The study found that 65% of companies were targeted by fraud attempts, with phishing as the most common scheme. To counter the threat, more than half of the respondents, about 56%, cited identity verification as the most effective tool to stop fraud before it occurs. The Philippines' foreign debt burden is easing, a small but positive sign for government finances as global borrowing costs remain high. Data from the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas shows external debt service fell 5% as of end July. Total payments on foreign obligations dropped to $7.53 billion in the first 7 months, from $7.94 billion a year earlier. The central bank attributes the decline to fewer foreign loans maturing during the period. Analysts say lower debt service pressure helps free up fiscal space for priority spending and could support the peso if borrowing needs stay manageable. The Statement of Assets, Liabilities, and Net Worth, or SALN, is back under scrutiny. All 24 senators have now released their SALNs, but instead of providing clarity, many are raising new questions about generic asset listings, unexplained wealth, and the lack of historical data for comparison. So in 2025, amid corruption allegations and public pressure, how effective is the SALN today as a tool for transparency and accountability? And can a smarter digital cross-check system help clean up government and restore taxpayer confidence? Joining us now for discussion on this is former BIR Commissioner Kim Jacinto Henares. Good morning, Kim. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Good morning, and thank you for inviting me. to join you.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting discussion, Kim. Kim, all 24 senators have now released their SALNs. From what you've seen, any red flags or what stands out to you the most?
Well, what stands out is that first, when we say the SALN need to be public, it doesn't mean they have to publish it. No, it just means that if anyone want to ask for it, then they can get it. What I notice is that although they don't need to publish it, what they did was they redacted or they blackened out some important data, no, which make the publication not that useful. No? So in my mind, why did you publish it pa when you're just going to do it that way?
Yeah, lots of things to dissect here. Kim, are these disclosures, when you look at it as a whole, are these disclosures actually helping to promote transparency, or are they raising more questions than answers?
Well, first, I would like to put a caveat. This is a SALN of 24 people. No? The government officials is around 1.2 million people. So statistically, it does not represent the 1.2 million people. No? Because if you look at the SALN of some of the senators, it raised more questions than answers some questions.
Okay, going into that, which ones raised red flags for you or raised big questions?
Well, looking at Senator Mark Villar's SALN, no, it has an other real and personal property, 844 million plus pesos. No? But then he detailed all his cars. No? So if you look at it,
okay, I see where you're coming from. Yeah, let me help you out there. I see where you're coming from. He detailed cars, but not 844 million pesos, which is odd, right? So in Senator Mark Villar's case, he listed 844 million that way, while his sister, Senator Camille Villar, actually itemized shareholdings in several Villar companies. Same family, different approach. What does this tell you about how inconsistently these SALN rules are being applied, even among public officials in the same family?
Yeah, I think first, I don't think they talk to each other. No? If you look at Senator Mark Villar's SALN, he also enumerated two shareholdings. No? So if you do it that way, that means that 844 million does not include shareholdings in companies. No? Then it raised another question. Your sibling, how come your sister has shareholding in most of the Villar companies? How come you, as the brother, does not have any shareholding? That's the other question mark. No? I'd like to state that the Civil Service Commission have an FAQ on how to fill up your SALN. No? And I think they should have read it. And the other thing is that, if you know how to itemize your car, how come you didn't know how to itemize your other real or personal property? And the SALN law was made by the legislature. No? It's the specific of the SALN law. And the intent was for you to enumerate your assets so that government can check on you so that you don't get ill-gotten wealth. And the other thing is so that the public, if they get your SALN, they can monitor you and hold you accountable. How come you have this asset but it's not in your SALN? Or if you compare it to your previous SALN, how come it suddenly became so much?
Well, that's one thing. This is just the 2024 SALN. Do you think we need a historical data so that we can compare figures? For example, from the first time the government official took office, shouldn't we see the SALN then so that we have a point of comparison? Kim, what do you think?
Yeah. But you have to remember, this is just them volunteering to publish their 2024 SALN. No? So to make the analysis of whether there's ill-gotten wealth and all these things, you have to compare this SALN with another SALN. No? Uh, uh, Ideally, you should have all their SALN through the years. If you cannot have it all, you should have at least the first one and this one to compare. If there's dramatical changes, then that's where you go and investigate why is there such a change.
Yeah, that's the word, ideally. And then also, you mentioned having to enumerate the actual assets. But, hundreds of millions of pesos are filed under the catch-all phrase of other real and personal properties with no details, no breakdown, no explanation. Given this, Kim, in your view, how effective is the SALN today? Has it become mere compliance, or does it still have the teeth to detect unexplained wealth?
Well, Senator Mark Villar's reporting of his SALN is the aberration. No? Because if you look at all the other SALN, there's a cash in bank. They break it down, cash in bank, jewelry, artwork. No? It's only him who does not have that, although he itemized his cars. No? So the law itself, you know, uh, when you draft a law, you cannot address everything, but you have the intent behind the law, and y- and people should follow the intent. Otherwise, our laws will be long, no, because you have to spoon feed everyone and say this is how you should do it. You cannot do it this way, no. But otherwise, it now becomes voluminous, no. Uh, we should be guided by the intent of the law, which is that so that people know what are your assets and whether there's suddenly an increase, why did it increase, where did your asset come from? No, that's why if you look at the real property, it said there a mode of acquisition. No, it can be inheritance, donation, or acquisition or
Yeah,
purchase.
the intent is there, the law is there. It's just in the implementation where things kind of get a bit hazy. And as we talk about this, Kim, the SALN, should it be something that evolves as well to reflect wealth today? Um, that means also disclosing beneficial ownership, stock holdings, trust interests, because without that, the SALNs don't really show the full picture. How do you think this SALN 2.0 should evolve?
Well, I think one way to make everything clear is probably that there should be a single custodian of all SALN, and there should be a digitalized input and coding of your, let's say when you submit your SALN, you go to a website or an app wherein you fill it up. It will guide you how you fill it up. No? So it will say you should put your cash in bank and all those things. No? So that it now becomes uniform. And when you submit it, it's digitalized, and the custodian can use AI to analyze all the SALN, no? And determine and do a quality control. No? And you can, because of technology, you can do it fast. And from there, you segregate, and then you, following what the Supreme Court said, no, that if there's a discrepancy, you ask the person to, you call the attention of the person, why is there a discrepancy, for the explanation. No? I think that's what the Supreme Court decision said, no, that the custodian should first supposedly give the other party a chance to explain and correct. Otherwise, it's not valid, no, filing
Okay.
of case of perjury. Except they also said it's not an excuse for concealment. No?
Right. Okay. So right now you're saying it's the information is scattered between the Civil Service Commission, the COA, BIR, AMLC. So you're saying that a single data warehouse is for all SALN. We need something like that. Kim, what's at risk if we don't do this?
Well, like what we're doing now, no, it's a silo, no. The judiciary have their own, keep their own SAL, and the legislative body, the Senate and the Congress, keep their own SAL, and then among the executive, there's still a division, no. The civil service get the SAL of everyone salary grade below 26, and everything salary grade 26 and above, I think, is with the ombudsman, no? And So how do you do an analysis of all this? And the standard will be different because different custodian will have different standard.
Yeah, okay. Well, lastly, Kim, really quickly, do you think Malacanang has the willpower to make these changes in the SALN? So the intent of the SALN is really there and it really works?
Well, Malacanang has the power. Now they have to show their will, no? But the SALN is a legislative, it's a law. So the other thing that needed is also an amendment to make it stronger, no? Because it seems like people don't understand or don't want to understand, no? So maybe you should be more detailed in your law.
Okay, Kim, former BIR Commissioner, thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you for inviting me.
We're taking a quick break. Please stay with us as we dive deep into the numbers and the narratives that matter most to your bottom line. Welcome back. Let's check on Asian markets this Wednesday morning. Right now, we're seeing the risk-off mode that we saw in Wall Street overnight spilling over here in Asia. The Nikkei 225 is deeply entrenched in negative territory, down a shocking 4.2% in early trade. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index down, but not by as much, down by 1.1%. Shanghai's Composite in the red by 0.4%, and Singapore's Straits Times Index down by 1%. Here at home, our stock market rebounded yesterday after a heavy day of selling. Main gauge climbed 0.7% to 58.67, led by technical buying and cautious positioning ahead of key data. Trading volume was thin at 6.37 billion pesos. Analysts say that the move is a technical rebound as investors stay on edge for October inflation data and third quarter GDP figures out next Thursday, November 7. Now, the market remains defensive, with many traders waiting for fresh cues from economic data and corporate earnings. Over the short term, analysts expect the PSE index to move sideways between 5,800 and 5,900 until investors see clear signs of growth, inflation, and confidence. Taking a look at our market this morning as of 10:19, the main gauge is in the red. I'm seeing a sea of red right now, selling across the board. PSE index is down by 1%, mirroring the gains across Asia this morning. We are at 58.10. The broad all shares index is in the red as well, down by 0.6% to 35.36. Taking a look at these sub-indices, we're seeing weakness across the board. All are trading in negative territory, with some down over 1% in early trade. That's the holding firm, the property counter, and the mining and oil counter. Volume is very thin at 56 million shares, changing hands, valued at just 629 million pesos. Market breadth is bearish, with 67 decliners, 35 advancers, and 61 stocks unchanged. Taking a look at the currencies, the peso opens at 58.65 against the greenback, up from its previous close of 58.52. Now we have this just in. Inflation in September edges up to 1.7%, still well below last year's level, but showing some pressure from transport and food costs. That's according to the Philippine Statistics Authority. The rate rose from 1.5% in August, though still slower than the 1.9% a year ago. The main drivers were higher transport and food prices, along with restaurants and accommodation. Prices for alcohol, health, and personal care eased. Food inflation climbed to 0.8%, led by vegetables, tubers, and pulses, while meat, fish, dairy, and fruits rose more moderately. Core inflation eased slightly to 2.6%, suggesting underlying price pressures remain mild. Overall, prices are up in transport and food, but inflation remains well within the BSP's target range, keeping a rate cut cycle on the table. Now, taking a look at the peso, it's staging a small comeback after weeks of pressure from global rate uncertainty and capital outflows. The local currency closed stronger at 58.51 per dollar on Tuesday, up nearly 28 centavos from Monday. Dollar volume rose to more than $1 billion as the peso got a boost from hints that the U.S. Federal Reserve may cut rates again in December. Still, traders now see only a 65% chance of another cut, down from 94% last week. Market watchers expect the peso to trade between 58.35 and 58.65 over the near term as investors balance global rate expectations against upcoming local data on GDP. Analysts say that the peso's recovery will depend on how soon the Fed starts easing and how strongly domestic confidence can hold through till the year end. Now, start at the top and the rest will follow. That's the message from ultrabilyonaryo Manny Pangilinan, who says leadership, education, and media literacy are the real foundations of any meaningful anti-corruption drive. Big business leaders are now joining the call to clean up the government. Pangilinan is urging both the public and the private sectors to focus first on big-ticket corruption cases, saying reform must begin where power is greatest. He also warns that cuts in the education budget will only worsen the problem, pointing to EDCOM2's report that functional illiteracy has nearly doubled in 30 years, now affecting 24.8 million Filipinos. Senator Bam Aquino, longtime advocate for education reform, links the spread of fake news to weak literacy systems. He says fixing classroom shortages, textbook gaps, and responsibly integrating AI are crucial steps to build a more informed citizenry, one that can hold leaders accountable. In business and in government alike, credibility is capital, and without it, even the best laid reforms can collapse. In other news, big business means big environmental concerns. Climate Rights International, or CRI, is urging the Philippine government to stop approving new nickel mines, citing serious risks to lives, livelihoods, and the environment. Next to Indonesia, the Philippines is the second largest nickel producer in the world and the top exporter of raw nickel ore. But CRI's report says nickel mining destroys farmlands, pollutes water and air, increases climate risks, and is linked to human rights abuses. The group is calling on the government to halt new projects, strictly enforce existing laws, and hold mining companies accountable. A tough challenge given their ties to powerful business and political figures. CRI also urges EV and battery companies sourcing nickel from the Philippines to check their suppliers and promote transparency in their supply chains. The report warns that as global demand for battery metals surges, the country must choose between short-term mining gains and the long-term costs to communities and the environment. Now, on another front, global manufacturing slowed in October as new U.S. tariffs weighed on orders and disrupted supply chains worldwide, with the impact now being felt here at home. Factories in the United States contracted for the 8th straight month as uncertainty over tariffs discouraged expansion. Europe's factories also stagnated, led by Germany, France, and Italy, while Spain grew modestly on strong domestic demand. In Asia, exports from China and South Korea fell, even as India expanded production on local consumption. For the Philippines, the slowdown means softer demand for electronics and manufacturing exports, possibly dragging on growth and jobs through the remaining 2 months of the year. Recent trade talks eased some tariffs temporarily, but analysts warn that global manufacturing may stay under pressure, keeping Philippine exports and factory output on a cautious path. And that's it for Business 360. I'm Maiki Oreta. Thank you for joining us, and keep it here on BMC, the Bilyonaryo News Channel.